Okay. Well, I don't see on chat. Let's see. There we go. All right, everybody, we're going to get going in a little bit. It's 6:57, but I'm curious while we're waiting the next 3 4 minutes. Where are you from? How big a? See how wide our group is here. If you want to type in the chat room, where are you all from? From South Haven, Mississippi.
All right.
Well, welcome to America. I'm just kidding. That was a joke.
Orlando, Cocoa Beach.
Oh, Glen
Maryland?
Burnie.
Yeah.
I know Glen Burnie. I've been there plenty of times. Merritt Island, beautiful place. Hottie Toddy. Where the heck's Hottie Toddy? What's Hottie Toddy? Bobby,
Never heard of it.
yeah. Alma, Kansas. Alma
Ole
is
Miss.
that's close to Kansas City, isn't it? I think. Ole Miss. All right, we got one of those. Okay, I should have known that. All right. And Alma, Kansas. Where's Alma, Kansas? Indianapolis. I'm also from Indianapolis. I go back and forth. I'll be there for Christmas. My grandkids are in Indianapolis. California. Oh my gosh, this is awesome. We're spread out Manhattan, between Manhattan and
Where?
Topeka. Okay. Yeah, Terry, my little brother is concertmaster of Tulsa in Wichita and a professor at Wichita State. So I get there some.
Good
Phoenix.
old
Very
Jacksonville.
cool. That's awesome. We get a wide group. We got 2 more minutes. And Palmdale, California. Where's Palmdale? Oh, Baton Rouge. I've been to Baton Rouge. That's actually I had a good time there. That was a good place. And Shay is Indianapolis. Hey, are you an
Wow.
IU fan or a Purdue fan, Shay? Because most people one or the other. Yes, on Beach. I used to teach at IU, and IU is having their best year in 60 years in football. It's unbelievable. And we'll get going in another minute or so. But this is really good. 60 miles north of North LA. All right. That's a nice area. Jacksonville Beach. It's spread out. And Tampa, this is a weird thing. I've traveled all over the world. My favorite restaurant in the world is in Tampa, Florida, of all places.
Wow.
Is that not weird? It's called Burns Steakhouse. It's unbelievable. So, Stephanie, have you ever been there? Stephanie Randolph, ever been to Burns Steakhouse? I've only been there on corporate credit cards. I can't say I've ever paid for myself. So, it's one of those places. So, and we'll do one more. Yeah, new head coach, unbelievable. From who'd have known coming from Virginia up in Harrisburg and turn that program into something special at IU. It is incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody asked about the boat. It's actually the ferry from Vancouver Island to Anacortes in Washington State.
Okay. Now, are they seeing your ferry or are they seeing my slide?
They're seeing the ferry behind me.
Uh-oh. Well, that's not right. Okay, they're not seeing my slide. I better fix that. Okay. Do you have control over it? What the heck happened here?
I
Okay,
know we
1
can see
second.
your slide too.
You can see
We can
both?
see your slide. Yeah, because I've got the background behind me, like you've got your home background.
Oh, that's what's going on. I get it. I get it. All right. We'll do one more minute. Wow, we got a good group here. 47 people. Let me reset up my chat. And I know one question I'm going to get asked. So I'm going to answer that now. So I always get asked, one, is this being recorded? Yes, it's being recorded. Two, how do I get it? Well, one, it'll be published in a couple of days, but two, I'm going to put in the chat room my email. And if you write to me, I will send it out. It usually gets published to me in about 2 3 hours. And then three, if you want me to send it to you, let me know yes or no if you want other presentation that I've given for SCORE. If you want others, put that in your note to me that you want those too. All right, does that sound good? And again, let me just make sure everyone can see my screen. Is that correct?
Yes, we can see it.
All right. Well, I'm going to turn over to you and let you kick it off.
Okay, thanks, Dave. So good evening, everyone. Today's webinar is leadership. Let me see. Go back one, Dave. It's leadership, grow yourself, build your team with our presenter, Dave Harrison. My name is Kate Thomas, and I'm going to be your host for this evening. So if we go to the next slide, we have just 4 slides to show you. You already are muted, and we have here the chat at the bottom of your screen, which is where we ask that you put in your questions, and Dave will either answer some of the questions while we go through the webinar, or he'll address your questions right at the end, all right? Now, a link to this recording, well, you know about that from Dave, he just mentioned that to you. And one thing that you will get at the end of this webinar is a link from SCORE, which will ask you to give your feedback as to what you thought of the webinar. And we do ask that you fill that in. Just take a moment to fill it in if you
Oh,
can.
we
Thanks.
already know what they're going to think of the webinar. I mean, they're just going to go crazy over it, but it's okay. I'm teasing.
We hope so, yes.
All right.
So a few
So a little
things
bit about
about,
SCORE.
yeah, so a
Tell
few things
about
about
SCORE.
SCORE. So Mid-Florida, we are Mid-Florida, the Mid-Florida chapter of SCORE. And if you want to get to find us, you can go to score.org and just tap on the search there, and you will go down to Mid-Florida. It'll ask you to select your location. You'll go to Mid-Florida. And there you can find certain resources that SCORE has, such as the local workshops. We've got training, we've got templates, we've got blogs with information that you can use as well. And you can also request a local mentor from when you go to the website. And we've got a lot of local mentors that are available to help you with your business. And if need be, we can also resource mentors throughout the country. These are, next slide, Dave. We have about 10,000 mentors across the country, and they provide free business advice. So this evening, we've got David Harrison. I think you go by Dave, and he is a professor or an instructor, perhaps I should say, and he teaches MBA students full time. He's had a very glorious career. He worldwide, and he has been with companies such as Johnson & Johnson. You see their Standard Industries and Armstrong. Is that Armstrong Economics, Dave?
Armstrong World Industries. It's the biggest
World
company
Industries?
in floors and ceiling tiles. So like when you go in an office building, you see those big ceiling tiles, that's mostly Armstrong. So
okay. All right. So Dave is going to take you through the webinar this evening. And so I'm going to turn it over to him now. Dave?
all right. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to talk about leadership and just some world-class leadership stuff, some stuff that works, some stuff that doesn't. It's only an hour, so we'll do the best, that we can in an hour, and I hope you get something out of it. So let me just start off with making sure this is going to work for you. So would you agree that if you get insights from this topic, all right, it'll be successful for you? In other words, would you agree that if you get insights into why stop searching for safe, because it doesn't exist, if you get insights into how people are really wired and why and how it drives what we do, if you get insight into how to focus, how to communicate more effectively, even when things are tough, if you get some insight into be more like Gumby, how to be flexible, like that little green cartoon character that some of us might remember, and your most important role, insight and why, trust and insight and action are the key to leadership. If you get insight into those things, can we agree? Type in the term, can we agree? Can I be successful for you? Would that be fair? I'm seeing a bunch. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for chipping in that. Let's see how we do. All right. And by the way, like I said, problem prevention, it's being recorded. Get the recording will be posted. or you can email me. I give you one email. There's the other email, and let me know if you want the other things too. But do that after the session tonight. All right. So some advice I got from my wife that sort of fits that, and it was interesting now. It was meaningful now. It was interesting then. And it's, dream big, set goals, and take action. So if you can't dream it and plan on it and act on it, you'll likely not achieve it. And I got that advice just a few days before the deadline to propose marriage. All right. Tell me these things are true. Is what you want and what's likely to happen. Let's picture a grid. All right. We got no risk, and that's what you want, right? But how likely are you going to have gain? And you want some risk. We have some gain. And if high risk, and gain is really likely. So think about that. No risk, you're not likely to have much gain. Some risk, you have some gain. High risk, that's where the big gain comes from. Why do I bring this up? We seek safe. And we have limited resources, so we need to focus. But the reality is, safe doesn't exist. But we're wired as people to avoid risk. So you can see the dilemma. So what's the lesson? Leadership is about helping other people overcome the fear of change, because we're wired as individuals to avoid change. So leadership is helping people overcome their fear of change, because only through change can individuals or teams or companies grow and prosper. So your job every day is to sell the future and why that's so much better than the current, and it's worth the risk. And sometimes you're doing that just with you, helping you overcome the fear of change. The safe doesn't exist. Why? Well, the reality is you don't control the facts. And the complication is the whole journey is constantly changing. There's things going on that you can control. There's things going on you have no control over. So my analogy to you is try to do this. Be a human GPS system like in your car. Know where you want to go, but don't be afraid or get upset about the detours along the way. Sometimes those detours are pretty cool. Sometimes they're annoying and aggravating, but there may be detours. The lows, when things don't go well, they amplify the highs. So enjoy the journey like a trip and use your GPS to constantly recalibrate getting towards where you're trying to go. And what does this mean fundamentally? Business is all about best guess. And the more you try to build perfection into it as if there's a right answer, the more likely you're going to make a mistake or move way too slowly. Business is best guess. And most people are afraid of making decisions on a best guess. But almost every decision I ever made in my career, and I have built 2 companies that went over $1 billion, it was all best guess. So, suggestion to you is think of facts as there's 4 types. And when you hear facts, it's important to you, personally or professionally, but in your business, put them into 4 different buckets. And just picture if you can put it in those buckets, how much it'll help you. So let me give you an example. What's a gold bucket? And this is the most important bucket. It's accurate information, and it's really important information. And that's gold. The good news is it's awesome. The bad news is you hardly get any of it. You got to sit for it. The second type is a lot of them. I call them vampires. It's stuff that happens to be accurate, but it's less important. So by talking about it and focusing on it too much, it's like a fire hose. It sucks the blood out of the most important stuff. It's like if you sat in meetings, family, friends, whatever, and what's really important is this, and someone's going, yeah, but this, and yeah, but this is a fact, and yeah, but this is a fact, and what about this, and we consider this. Most of those are vampires. They help people feel good about themselves and like they're thinking whatever, and happens to be accurate information, but you lose the priority and you can't focus. And the key to business is learning how to focus and push the vampires, even though it's accurate information. If it's less important, put it aside. Yeah, it's like Bobby said, 9% of your time should be in the 10%. That's really important. The third type of data I call brick walls or big walls. I call them brick walls. What's a brick wall? It's a fact that somebody believes is true. And I wish I learned early in my life, but here's the reality of brick walls. You can't go through them. And I used to try over and over again, but they're wrong. I'm going to show them why they're wrong. It hardly ever works. What do you do with a brick wall? You walk around it. You sort of ignore like it's not even there because you're not going to win trying to go through brick walls. And the fourth type of data I call ghosts. Ghosts are the assumptions that you need to make that holds the glue. It's the glue that holds the gold together. When you tell a story of what's going on with all the chunks of gold, when you put it all together, you can see the entire story. And why do ghosts exist? You might have not time to get the facts. It might not be possible to get those facts, or it might be too expensive to get those facts. But the key is you got to make assumptions so that the gold makes sense, because you'll never have all the data you need to have the perfect answer. But the best way to get there is through a story. Tell the entire story. And what do I mean by that? Well, when you share an important fact and the implication, that works for that fact and implication. But there are other things going on. Test your story where you're talking about the who, the what, the when, the where, the how, the why, all components. And when you say it out loud, even to yourself, the holes in the story become more clear. And the holes of the story, you keep trying new assumptions and looking for different gold until the story becomes more clear. Before I keep going, is this making sense so far? Is this helpful? Just give me some quick feedback. Too fast, too slow? How are we doing? A little feedback? We're doing good? Michael, you're back. I've seen you multiple times before. Thank you. All right. Awesome. Okay. And you didn't understand the four types of data. So let me just go through it again one more time because it'll be important. If you think of data, you have four types. One, it's absolutely accurate, right? You can't contest it, and it's really important. Second is it's accurate, but it's not that important. So when you're talking about it, it's pulling you away from the gold, what's really important. Brick walls is inaccurate information, and ghosts are assumptions. They're all different types of facts, but it's amazing when people share assumptions, they talk about them as if they're facts. When people talk about brick walls, they're certain they're right. When people bring up vampires, they happen to be accurate, but it's pulling away from what's really important. So what I'm suggesting is look for the goal, sift for it, understand, recognize vampires and push it to the side, recognize brick walls, walk around it, and ghosts, look for the important ghosts that are glue to hold the story together. All right. So how are we really wired? And how we're really wired, just think back to high school. Think about, what's the hardest part about getting a date? What's the hardest part about getting a date? Most of you say, if you're honest with yourself, scared to ask. The benefit of getting the date, but the fear of rejection, and what most people do, they go with the fear of rejection. They avoid. We're more likely to avoid than to gain. So the most likely obstacle to anything is fear, right? In fact, Stanford University did a study on it, and the factor is a 2.1. In other words, that means is benefit needs to be 2.1 times just to be equal to fear. We need to have lots more benefit to offset fear. It's math. We're wired to avoid risk. So what's required? Trust. Trust is your most important asset in everything you do. It's the most important communications, it's the most important in your product, it's the most important in services. And it's constantly being challenged. And if you understand that, you'll be more successful because everyone you work around, as a leader, you're always dealing with people who are afraid of change. You're helping them overcome the fear of change. And in order to do that, they need to trust you. And that's where we're going to go. Great leaders generate more trust. It's that simple. And it works because we're in a world that's wired with fear. So let's talk about fear. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The same message. Nelson Mandela. The only thing, you've heard this quote, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Franklin Roosevelt. Initial fear can inspire, but too much can destroy. How about trust? If people don't trust you, how closely do they really listen? So, what does that mean? Your communication plus the trust that you've developed and earned is going to equal a relationship that can hopefully last for a lifetime. So let me show you what I mean. Let's look at the consequences of fear. Let's look at the lessons and the implications of fear. All right. So I'm going to give you a scenario. We've got this company called Acme Widgets Manufacturing. All right. And it employs about 30 people. And there's one employee in there, his nickname has been Angry Joe. This guy's a scary guy. You know what? 10 minutes ago, he just got fired. And when he left, he screamed out, "You're going to be sorry." And people sort of scared at risk. The owner goes, "Come on, I know this guy. He doesn't believe there's risk. Just writes it up. There's no real risk here." So here's my question to you. Tell me about the rest of the workday for everybody else. The owner says, "It's no big deal. It's nothing. He's just left angry. No big deal." Other people are a little scared. So the accuracy of what they're working on every day, you think that's going to go up, down, or no change? the speed at which things get done. Think it's going to up, down, or no change. Quality of the work, it's going to go up, down, or no change. The enjoyment at work, up, down, or no change. How people are collaborative with each other, up, down, or no change. Yeah, Bobby, everything's going to go down. Perception is reality. So why is this important? Because leaders tend not to see the same fear that other people see. They just don't see. Or they have insight that says it's not a big deal. But the team around them, the other people around them, they may have fear. And as a leader, our job is to help and be sensitive to what other people are fearful of and help them overcome the fear that they're experiencing. Because if they're not fearful, what happens to accuracy and speed and quality and enjoyment, collaboration, reliability? It goes up. When people feel good about what they're doing and without fear, those things go up. And that's leadership. What's a so what? So what do leaders need to do to survive challenging times? And it's always challenging times. You need to focus better because your time and the dollars are more scarce. You're going to be more flexible and rapidly change and pivot. Sometimes that's required. And of your team, you got to assure they're accountable, because if they're not, you're accountable for everything. If you're accountable for everything, you're going to fall flat in your face. Well, to do that, what do you have to do? You need to communicate better. You're going to be more clear. You're going to generate more trust, and you got to constantly be aware of them. They can only be effective if you're sensitive to what they're worried about and help them overcome what they're worried about. If people aren't worried and feel good, good things happen. You don't have to carry it all yourself. When other people are owning it, you can delegate. You can't delegate unless they know what they're accountable for and you're very clear about what's expected. And they're not going to want to be accountable unless they trust you, that you're looking out for their own best interest. See how that all links together. You can't do everything. You got to focus. So here's the reality. If you can't control it, you got to use your best guess. And everything external are either opportunities and threats that are external. You can't control them. You got to take a best guess. So using an analogy of sports, if I'm a coach of a sports team and we're playing, I'll pick a sport, football, and we're playing a team next week, I got to do a best guess about their players, which ones are weaker that we've got an opportunity, and which ones are the biggest threats, and what are we going to do about it? And if you can control it, you take a best guess on how I use our strengths and weaknesses. So you got external opportunities and threats, internal strengths and weaknesses, and just boil everything down to that essence. That's what great leaders do. They just boil it down. They don't get lost in the complex. Great leaders make the complex simple on the most important things. And what do you do with that? Well, you look for external opportunities and internal strengths. And you pound away at those like a sledgehammer over and over and over and over again. So again, using a sports analogy, what part of that team is weak that we happen to have a strength to take advantage of that weakness? That's a sledgehammer. Focus on that sledgehammer over and over and over again, because most of what you're going to accomplish is with a sledgehammer. And the sledgehammer is external opportunities and an internal strength. And then look for, where are we vulnerable? Where do we have a weakness? And they're particularly strong externally, whatever that external thing. We're weak and it's a threat. That's an Achilles heel. It's the first thing you learn. Don't try to fix an Achilles heel. Try to protect it. If you try to fix it, you'll spend so much time and effort trying to fix it, you'll forget the sledgehammer. Again, great strategy, great leaders, find the sledgehammer. Externally, I see an opportunity. Internally, I know how to take advantage of that opportunity. Swing that sledgehammer. However, I don't want to be stupid, or are we a little weaker? And it could be a problem. And it's not going to ever be perfect, but how can I diminish the risk? Because you can't do it all. And one of the biggest mistakes small businesses make is try to fix the Achilles heel. And they lose focus on the sledgehammer. Let's talk about the financial game. Look at the financial side, just like Bobby's talking about, right? You can't be spread too thin. You got so many resources. So what I used to try to do in business is think in terms of, they take swings. Sometimes they're up, sometimes go down. So what I tried to do is make sure I built the organization as flexible as I could be. So what did that mean? Here's how I did it. Doesn't mean it's the right way. Here's how I did it. I said, what's the most likely upside that I might need? And what are the resources I need? So as an example, if I was running at that time a home improvement company, and let's just say, for example, I was focused on roofing, I said, well, you know what? I think the upside is we're going to do 150 roofs next year. I'm making it up, right? And then I go, okay, what's the mostly downside? Well, upside, I think is 150. Downside, I can't see us doing less than 100. Okay. And what's the most probable? I think the most probable is we're going to do about 125. Right. So the gap probable to upside is 25. And the gap probable downside is about 25. And I'm going to build my organization around, conservatively, just around the resources needed, or maybe even a little bit more towards the downside. And if it goes up, I'm going to bring in temporary resources, because when that goes away, I don't want to deal with layoffs. So in other words, here's what I'm saying. One of the biggest mistakes I see small business make is they invest in front of the business. I always squeezed the team to try to meet the upside and use outside resources to flex, to shore up where we didn't have enough resources. And the mistake is when we're going to do this much business, and you put all the resources in and it doesn't hit it. And I've seen so many companies get into that problem. Is this making sense so far? Give me some quick feedback. How are we doing? Doing good? All right. So let's look at the data then, because that's where a lot of this is. One side was the data, and I want to just talk about the data a little bit. So my guess is most of you are not accountants. And if you've got a business going, you might have hired an accountant or a bookkeeper to do the accounting. And this would be a traditional income statement. I got revenue, right? the cost of goods, gross profit, then below gross profit, I got whatever it is. I built an income statement. And when you agree, there's a bunch of numbers on there, but I wouldn't know what to do with it. Is that fair? So what do most people do? Most people, most owners look at the top number, revenue. They look at the cost of sales, cost of goods. They look at profit and they say, I don't know what else to do with this income statement. And a balance sheet is a traditional balance sheet from an accountant, right? I've got my liabilities. They got my shareholders, and that's what I got. What do I do with it? So here's what I do. I shift everything to percents other than the revenue number. Why? Because I can quickly pick up a trend. You noticed before, I can't tell what's going on. I know it's good or bad. Oh, my cost of goods dropped significantly. Oh my gosh. So look what happened. My operating income went way up. I can quickly spot major differences by putting things in percents. Here's the key I'm getting at. The best data is not the absolute data. The best data is to help you quickly spot questions, changes. And then you can go look at the absolute data to see what and why. In Company that I've run, I've had companies that we do this daily, most companies at least weekly. So you can quickly pick up what's changing. The key to business is not the absolute number. The key to business is what's changing, what's trending, and be able to find that rapidly. And again, balance sheet, the same way, right? This is, I can quickly see what's going on. And I can see why my profitability went way up because the total assets to run the company dropped like crazy. I have a lot less investment, which means my return investment is going to take off. So what does this all mean about numbers? Let me just summarize it. Avoid, because it's all they know how to do, the accountant view of numbers, right? Their comfort zone are the right numbers. Instead, try to be a guru. Don't look at the data for the answers. Build your data so you can get better questions. Don't focus on the absolute number. Build your data so you see trends. And don't create a simple stopwatch. Create a comprehensive dashboard of different data relative to something else, right? Data is best when it's relative to something else, like a percent, relative to something else. And it's going to help you run a more effective business, right? That makes sense? So what are the different roles, right? And I like to develop with clients KPIs. KPIs mean key performance indicators, right? And I break them into two types. Most people don't separate the two. I think it's important to separate the two. One type of data is the process and how's the process working. And I use the process to say, how do I improve it? The other type of data is the outcomes, right? The outcomes that are actually driving the changes in resources and strategies. So I want to show you an example of what I mean. Actually, I don't have that there. I'm going to hit it another way. There's another way to link this in your business, which is a little bit different. If you try to read about objectives and strategies and do it out of books and what they teach in college, frankly, most of it's not helpful at all, I don't think. So here's a way to look at it, right? You got the person you're reporting to, you got you, and you get the team under you. Right? And if you're the boss, do it the same way. So how do I build it? Objectives are what's gold, what's really important. And I like to make my objectives smart, right? So they're specific what it is, the measurement that goes with it. So I know it's attainable, it's realistic, and it's important, it's relevant, and I know when it's supposed to happen by. If objectives aren't smart, they're just big picture and they're meaningless to you and to other people around you. Strategies are how you're going to achieve the objectives. The most important thing you do, how we're going to achieve it. And the tactics are just mini objectives. There's specific details to get the strategies done. So objectives are the goal. Think of tactics as it's almost like we had before, it's almost like the vampires, but the difference is we're doing it. We don't have to talk about it all the time. It's taking us away from what's important. And if you go to work every day, say, my job is to promote my boss. How do I do that? Know what their strategies are and their objectives. And the key is build. If you've got strategies and you've got someone working for you, have them tie their objectives to your strategies. If each person on your team builds their objectives around your strategies, you're more likely to achieve your objectives. And if the team reporting to you has people below them, having those people build their objectives around the person who reports to you's strategies, the people reporting to you are more likely to achieve their objectives. And one of the best books I've ever seen on this concept is Traction. So you might want to look at it. And Natalie, if you write to me, as I shared earlier, email me and I'm going to send you a link to every slide in the video later tonight. All right. And the author of this is, I'll pull it up in a second, but it's called Traction. It's all about a concept called EOS, and I'll look it up in a second. I apologize. I usually have it right at the top of my head, but it's a great book. It's one of the best books I've seen on that. All right. I want to do an exercise with everybody. All right. So this is a 60-second exercise. All right. So what we're going to do is when I start, and some of you have been with me before, so you guys, you don't get to play. But the people who haven't, I'm going to put up a chart. I want you to first find the number 1, then find the number 2, then find the number 3. Right? Ready? Go. First find the number 1. When you find that, then find the number 2. When you find that, then find the number 3. And let's see how far we can get in 60 seconds. See how far you can get. Yep, that's the one. It's in the chat room. Traction. Get a grip in your business. Gino Wickman and Kevin Pierce. And by the way, I do some consulting in that area. So if you get really into it, contact me personally and I can help you through it. There's a lot of the book that works real well. I will also tell you there's parts of the book that don't work well. So if you really get into it, let me know. I will tell you the best part of the book is what they call the L10. Some of the other parts I wouldn't say are as good, but if you get into it, let me know. And we get another 15 seconds or so. I want to see how far you get. All right. And then we can go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. In the chat room, put in how far you got. If you haven't done this before, how far did you get? Right. I don't see any yet. 15. Okay. Pretty good. How far did you get? Give me some more here. 24, that's a lot. 11, that's more common. 15, pretty good, pretty good. Ron's got 12, Gloria's got 12. 8, Victoria, I used to see a lot of 8s, and even less than that. All right, we're going to do it one more time. All right, I'm going to change one thing, and I want to see how you do. You ready? Number one is in the top left box. Number two is in the box just to the right of it. Number three is in the box just to the right of that. And see how far you can get. Go. Do, 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 do. Get to 48. Let me know. Victoria got there. There goes Shannon. There goes. Keep going. Time's not quite up yet. Eric got there. Christy got there. All right. Okay. So what's the point of this? The point of this is how visual we are. When you're talking, this is how you come across. You know exactly what you mean. It's in exact the order that you meant. You get it. But picture the person hearing. It's hard to follow. So what you want to do when you're sharing anything is make things visual. When you're explaining anything, when you're showing anything, when you're with a customer, with your employee, in anything you're doing, make it visible so they know when you switched each individual topic. I just went from one, flip the page. Now I'm showing you number two, flip the page. Now I'm showing you three. Break anything you're training on or showing a customer, break it into pieces. It'll be a lot easier for them to learn. It'll be a lot easier for them to follow because we are visual followers with our eyes. And it helps make more clear the information that's coming. That's the point here. It's like I have all these PowerPoint slides. I don't need these PowerPoint slides. That'll let you know I just switched the topic. I just went to another piece of information. We just changed. Makes it easier to learn and follow. Does that make sense? And great leaders do that all the time. When they're trying to train, when they're trying to show, when they're trying to make decisions, they make things visual and they try to make the complex simple and let you know every time they introduced something new. It's like turning a page in a PowerPoint. All right. So when you're dealing with anybody, employees, customers, whatever, but employees, what's actually going on behind the scenes? They're going through a journey. First, do I trust you? Second, is what you have to share interesting to me? Three is what you have to share is interesting. Is it something that's important to me that I can't get elsewhere? It's different. And four is what's in it for me? Why should I take action? So years ago, I was part of a study, Johnson Johnson and IBM, and we took key young employees. I was one of the ones taken, and we were told to figure out how to hire the best salespeople and how to train them and how to hire the best leaders and how to train leaders. We thought this was crazy, right? But there's a bunch of them for both companies. And, you know, at the time I was running dental products and someone else is on typewriters and someone else is on OB tampons and we had someone else on computers. And I mean, it's the weirdest group of people. And we tried to do the research. And what we found was it had nothing to do with personality. It had nothing to do with height, weight, personality. It didn't even have to do with our best leaders. Some of them were very outgoing. Some were very quiet. Some were, none of that predicted our best leaders. What did protect our best leaders is they were best storytellers, right? We said, why? Well, think about it. Most of us, who's most important? Me. Storytellers. Who's most important? You. What's communicated? Most of us, the logical facts. Storytellers, they want to make sure you feel it, you understand it, you picture what's happening and the consequences. What's the language they use? For some is the industry, the most sophisticated. What do storytellers use? The most simple, to make sure you get it and that you can share it with someone else. What success? Most of us, they heard me. Storytellers, they understood me and understood what's in it for them. What's shared? Most of us tell people stuff. Storytellers engage you. They use questions, they use thoughts, they make sure you're with them. You get it. And you're right, Bobby, it's the Army motto. It's keep it KISS. It's the KISS symbol. Keep it simple, stupid. Leaders do the opposite of what we think. Leaders don't care how smart you think they are. They care that you understand it. Most of us are so caught up in, we got to prove ourselves. That's not what leaders do. Here's a big one. Most of us talk about the who, the what, the when, the where, and the how. Those are 5 causes of anything to happen. Storytellers put the focus on the why, the implication. Now, with the strategy, most of us, we try to convince people. Storytellers try to help people. So think about that from a leadership standpoint. As a leader, if you're focused on them and you're helping them try to understand emotionally what they're trying to accomplish and why, and you simplify it for them, and you make sure they understand, and they engage you, and they share why, and they clearly try to help you, are you more likely to follow them? I'll give you an example, personal example. I think I told you, maybe I didn't. Most of my career was taking very sick companies out of bankruptcy. People used to call me a business doctor. Went to work every day and say, I save jobs. And if I don't do a good job, someone's going to have financial trouble. So I carry that with me. My job is to save jobs. So one of the companies way back when, some of you may remember when your grandmothers, possibly your mothers, when your grandmothers, they'll have fine china, right? In fact, when you got married, most women 20, 30, 40 years ago, they got fine china for the wedding, right? It was really big culturally back then. And Lennox Fine China was the biggest in the country, and it was in trouble. It was in a lot of financial trouble, and I was brought in to bring it out of trouble. So my first week on the job, I went to the the head of manufacturing, and I said, which factory do we have the worst quality, the biggest issues? And he said, Kinston, North Carolina. I said, what do we make there? He goes, Dave, we make hundreds of thousands of fine china dinner plates in Kinston. We're having all sorts of trouble there, quality problems, and we're just having, it's not a good place. I said, okay, can I go down and talk to the employees? He goes, yeah, sure. Now remember, I've been on the job a week. He goes, all right, so when you want to go? A month from now, 2 months from now, when should I schedule? I said, well, can I go next Monday? He goes, yeah. I said, okay. He goes, I'll have the managers ready and for a meeting to start at 9 a.m. Is that okay? I played a little, knew what I was talking about. I said, well, wait a second. Isn't this a 3-shift operation? And he goes, yeah. I go, what time's the 3rd shift start? He goes, midnight. I said, tell him I'm going to start at midnight with the 3rd shift. He goes, Dave, no one's been there at midnight, the 3rd shift. I said, exactly. And every factory worker in the entire company is going to know Dave showed up because it was so important to talk to the employees at midnight. So now people are going, oh my God, what's he going to talk about? Is he going to tell them that we're in trouble and beat them up and the quality sucks and this and that, whatever? I said, no, I went down. I said, people down here, do you know who buys our product? Well, a lot of people buy a product. Yeah, but most people buy a product. You know what they're like? Because no, I said, well, most of them are like the secretaries are out front here. Most of them are 21 to 30 years old. And, this is affordable luxury. This is really special in their life. When they come in to that department store to get that fine china, I mean, they're not buying it for themselves. They're buying it as an heirloom for the daughter who hasn't even been born yet. You're building an heirloom. You are a huge part of their self-esteem. So on that dinnerware box, when that label's crooked, how do you think it affects the heirloom? When there's a little piece of dirt inside the package, which doesn't affect the product, you're supporting their dream. That's all I did. And I flew away. Gave them purpose, helped them understand how important they are and what they're doing. And they were afraid, fearful. I'm coming down to tell them they're terrible and this, and we're going to have layoffs. No, I went down to help them understand we're a company that builds dreams. What do you think happened? Be like a storyteller. And the other part of storytelling is it forces you to not just deal with isolated facts. So a storyteller will talk about, well, how does it affect our customer? And how does it affect our employees? And how does it affect our shareholders? And they're constantly holistically looking at how does this affect everybody else? And through a story, you can quickly tell if there's holes in the story, right? So how do you assure trust? Well, the recipe is if people feel like you care about them and you respect them, they tend to trust you. And there's a couple of simple ingredients in that recipe. I learned this early in life when I wanted to get a date in high school. The better my questions and the less I talked, the more she liked me. Why? Because it demonstrated care and respect. The more and I learned this one, especially with my children when they were young, the more I explained why something was important that I wanted them to do, and the less all the details, the more likely they were going to do it. Instead of focusing on the who, what, when, where, how, I focused on why it was important to me as a dad that they did something. Why? Because I was demonstrating care and respect. And the more I shared information, especially with employees, versus tell them stuff, it demonstrated care and respect. And the more they trusted it. So then I developed a formula I used all through my career. And I'm embarrassed to tell you this stupid little formula because I'm not that bright, but I know how to make the complex simple. And every one of my employees that worked for me had this on their desk. How do they make their information that they were sharing with somebody else more steady? What does that mean? Instead of telling you something, I'm going to share it. Shared information is more trusted. So, for example, instead of telling you, I get this pain reliever, it's the best, put a statistic on it. Well, 9 out of 10 hospitals use Tylenol. Share it versus tell it. Instead of saying, boy, we're going to help you lose a lot of weight. This is really going to work to lose weight. Share a testimonial. I lost 150 pounds in Subway every day. My name's Jared. I got in trouble later, but that's a whole other thing. Share what an expert said. Well, Crest, we're recognized by the American Dental Association. Share an analogy, helping them picture something that they can relate to. It's like these scrubbing bubbles that are cleaning your toilet so you don't have to touch it yourself. Demonstrate it. Well, the first blade pulls the whisker and the second blade does this, and I can't believe we're up to 5 blades. Or what you told me before based on a question I asked you. The more you can take the most important information that you have as a leader and make it steady, the more trusted it's going to be. The more trusted it is, the more likely they're going to act on it. Make your most important information steady. 2, assure they understand. So trust is first. Now we're going to make sure they understand. Well, what's the recipe? Cause and effect. If you think about it, it doesn't have to be that complicated to make the complex simple. Look at cause, and cause is one of 5 ingredients in the recipe. Who did it? What happened? When it happened? Where it happened? And how it happened. So anything you're looking at is some combination. Anything that goes, it's good or bad, is some combination of who, what, when, where, how. Those are causes. How do you prioritize them? Explaining the why. What's the risk? What's the benefit? And that's how you suck out what's gold and not vampires, because you're prioritizing to get to what's most important. And you get there, an analysis of cause and effect. And anything in life that goes good or bad is some combination of the recipe who, what, when, where, how. And how do you know it's gold? It's the answer to why. And then you got assure action. So you got trust, and then you explain it, cause and effect. And now you want to create action with people. So it doesn't work. Trying to convince people. Don't trust it. What does work? Build trust, the questions you ask, explaining why, demonstrating care and respect, creating insight, talk about the cause and effect, which allows you to drive action. And where's action coming from? People make decisions based on the experience that you're helping them avoid or gain. The experience. So, for example, if you're talking about join my company, I'm going to pay you this and benefits this, whatever. No, that's not the experience. Join my company because when you go home at night, you're going to have these resources from your family. When you come to work every day, when, in the future, you're going to have this kind of experience. Talk about the result of what's going to happen and why they might want to avoid it. Gain, and the things in their life that they want to avoid. And what's essential? Focus on the gold and don't get the vampires involved. Because the more vampires involved, it sucks the blood out of what's really important. And build everything you do as a strategy, tell a story. So they can picture the whole thing. Be a storyteller. So if I pull all that together, I call it the why theory. 3 steps. Trust. It's your most important asset. The recipe is care and respect. The ingredients are explain why, use questions, frankly, take good notes. Then comes the analysis of communication. The analysis you're doing, think chess as a leader, but you're communicating checkers. You're making the complex simple, and you're helping them understand through insight. You're thinking chess, the insight. You're communicating checkers, but the recipe is the same. What's the cause? The most important ones, who, what, when, where, how, and why should I care? And then you drive action. What can you help them personally avoid and gain? What's in it for them? That's what leaders do. They drive that behavior. So if you search every day, how can I help someone avoid a bad experience or gain a good experience? You're getting all you want in life. And if you help enough people get what they want, my kids from the age of 5, I was a weird dad. You could probably imagine I'm a weird good dad, but I was a weird dad. And every night at the dinner table, those kids my 2 boys had to come prepared. And here's what they knew they had to come prepared. And what did they have to know? My question every night was, who did you see at school today that might have a bad day, and what'd you do about it? I wanted to bring up boys who are constantly searching for who could they help versus how it's still going to help them. Because I knew the more they were one of that rare type that went in the world every day, who can I help? Good things happen. So a summary. The recipe for success in leadership is trust. It's the foundation of all relationships. It requires after trust that you help create insight, and that's making the complex simple for people. And then drive action. What's in it for them? Focus on the experience they're going to get, they're going to achieve. And the why is the foundation of trust. It's the foundation of insight. It's the foundation of action. Understanding the why. What are the ingredients? Help them visualize it. A mental picture replaces 1,000 words. Make sure it's emotional. People decide on opinion and select the facts. What's in it for them? Not what's in it for you. What's in it for them? Focus on what they're going to achieve. Educate. Ask questions to make sure you understand. And then once you think you understand, assure that you understood it. Wake up every day saying, who can I help? And how can I share instead of tell information? So you said at the beginning it was going to be successful today if you get insight into stop searching for safe, it doesn't exist, how people really are wired, drives what we do, some information on focusing communication, even more things that things are tough, why it's important to be Gumby and be flexible, and that your important strategy, your most important thing is trust, insight, and action. So were we successful today? Was today successful for you? What do you think? How do we do? All right. Thank you, Michael. I know I can always count on you. Thank you, Eileen, Alicia. Great. And again, remember, if you want the slides later today, my email is at the bottom. If not, it'll be published in a few days. A, B. If you want copies of other presentations in the email to me that you want this one, let me know. And I will send you the audio. But if you also want the individual slides, the PowerPoints themselves, please put that in the email to me as well. All right. And I really thank you for coming. And I hope you got something out of it. I know it's only an hour, but I hope you got something out of it. And it's a privilege on behalf of SCORE. And I'm going to turn it back over to our moderator, my support.
Thank you, Dave. I don't have much to add to this. I just want to thank everybody for attending today's webinar, and I hope you found it informative. And as a reminder, SCORE will send you a link so you can give your feedback on the presentation today and the webinar in general. And we'd appreciate if you would complete that for us. All right. So again, thanks for staying over, and have a good evening. And this will end now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.